Well, hello, powerful everyday women of the world, and Stacy Heisey-Terrell, our guest today. But of course, I have to do my intro first, guys. Welcome to the Startup Stories podcast, where the ambitious everyday woman is heard, held, and served in life and business. I'm your host, Mia Frankel of Powerful Inc., the everyday women's coach for living a peaceful and productive life. I'm bringing you relatable stories to keep you sane, to keep you grounded and growing as you expand yourself and deliver your purpose to the world. And I'm so excited, as usual, and still and again. I love the podcast so much. I have the best conversations with the best women. And today, Stacy Heisey-Terrell is joining us. Stacy is a career ownership coach with the Entrepreneur's Source. There's so much to introduce about Stacy, so let's unpack it. You guys, she worked in corporate for upwards of 30 years in the human resource industry. She, in the human resource portfolio of the corporate world, we'll say. And through that, she worked in a variety of different workplaces like legal, health, insurance, environment, energy. And the one that really struck my heart, Stacy, is local government, because I'm a local government employee in Canada.
Yeah.
I'm on the West Coast. And corporate can either be great or awful. And Stacy has
Sometimes both at the
sometimes
same
both.
time.
And like, I'm in a very healthy workplace, but I joke that the job that I do there is awful, right? But I love where I work, and so it makes a big difference. But this this paints the picture of 3 decades of exposure, experience, variety in different industries, and seeing common patterns that started
Mhm,
to
mhm.
shape Stacy and that started to um, have her question why she was accepting what she was accepting to pay the bills. Because while this working side of you was happening, you were also living and loving and growing a family. And you guys, she has 4 teenage girls. Oh my God. 4 teenagers all at once. And so you got a picture 13 to 19, 6 years, 4 kids. That's a lot. And this is who we are as everyday women, right? We have ambition, we have family, we have purpose that we're seeking, and we want to make a positive difference in the world. And Stacey's going to walk us through her story, but somewhere along the way, things started to shift, and she decided it was time for change. And whether the home life started to shift, and she saw more opportunity or prioritized herself differently in her work life environment, because like I work full time and I'm raising a young child and I have a stepdaughter and the things, making time where you can, pockets of time as possible so you can build something later too. So I warned Stacy I could go on and on. I'm going to wrap it up so we can dive into her story. But there's so many things I love about how she presents herself and that I can't wait to dive into. And one of those things is really that she says life is messy and wild. And yes, it can, but she's lived through turning that, leveraging that into something more meaningful and more suitable. Hence, career ownership coach, self trust, self advocacy, and allowing your influence to create change. So let's get into it, Stacy. Welcome, 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 and tell us
Thank you so much.
everything.
I'm so happy to be here. Yes, and thank you for the awesome intro.
Yeah, yeah, it's so great to just dive into people. And then again, I get so excited to have a conversation. So, we've laid it out. We're looking at 30 years now, 3 years into coaching. And tell us, I tend to do the who you were, what shifted, where you're at now.
hmm hmm Yeah, well, I think probably a lot of people in your audience can identify. I didn't grow up wanting to be the HR lady,
Mm,
and it kind of fell into HR and was good at it. And I love working with people, so that gave me an opportunity to work with people, coach employees, coach leaders, but it was always from the organization's point of view, right?
yes.
So was helping people be better employees, helping leaders be better leaders for the organization, whatever organization that was. And now I get to work with individuals who
Mhm.
kind of flip that around.
Yeah.
What is a good career for them? How does their career serve them? And that's really exciting. But it was a long journey and many kind of taps on the shoulder before I was like, oh, maybe there's something more, right,
Mm,
for me to do.
mhm.
Oh,
Yeah, so you've been able to leverage your corporate experience and now bring meaning into it where before you were governed by the institution that you worked for, right? And they were
yeah,
looking more for the company's productivity versus the individual's well-being.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And for a while, I was the layoff queen. They'd fly me
Mm,
around and I get to lay off lots of people. And that was hard and terrible, but I also I wanted to do that because I felt like I could do
yeah,
that
compassionately.
empathetically
Yeah.
and sensitively and um help people maintain some dignity, get a
Mhm.
plan for what were their next steps.
Yeah.
But it was torture. And now I work with a lot of people who've been through a layoff, and we actually get to spend some time
Yeah.
on what are those action plans. So it did, like, all that experience has kind of informed where I am now. So
Mhm.
even the hard stuff, I had to close an office in
Mhm.
Connecticut in a blizzard, and my 4-month-old baby had pneumonia. And so I live in Philadelphia. We threw everybody in the car and drove up, and I had the baby in the hotel room. Nobody knew. My
Right.
family was swimming in the indoor pool, enjoying
Yeah.
it while I was laying off, hundreds of people. So you do just kind of do what you need to do, but when you have a minute to look back and go, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's pretty insane.
Yeah.
Why did I have that experience? What
Yeah.
is that going to do for me? How can I use that for something positive later?
That's definitely the question I always like us to think about is what experience and very tangible skills, what evidence do we have in our current life that we can leverage um, to feed the feminine? So it's like that masculine feminine dance of paycheck, structure, stability. But then as women, we have so much heart and desire to really serve. And human resources, particularly how you've described it, can be very difficult on that part of the heart, right? Like I'm
Right?
in bylaw enforcement, so I'm penalizing people for not cutting their grass or being noisy or etc. And when I started in that career, we were moving along unhoused people, so it was really soul sucking.
Yeah, yeah,
Now it's
yeah.
shifted into like a completely different type of um, interaction, and I can bring more purpose to it. But what I'm really curious then is like, did you quit or retire out of corporate and start coaching, or where did that new life come from? Where what seed was planted that started to show you what was possible for you as a
Mhm.
longtime corporate, as a mom of four, and as a woman still yearning for more? Ooh, there's a rhyme.
Um, well, I think kind of along my journey, I had these frustrations, or I felt like I was hitting different walls, and I didn't like then, you know, kind of when you're at the end looking back, you go, oh, okay, maybe
Yes.
that was,
Yes.
you know, God tapping you on the
Yes.
shoulder, the universe like shouting at you a little bit. And I just didn't get it, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, I didn't get that promotion. Like,
Mhm.
gee, that's a bummer. You know, like,
Yes.
oh,
Yes. Yes.
this, you know, do doors kept closing, different things kept happening. And I worked at a small consulting firm and we lost a big client. I got laid off.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And
That's
so it was like, okay, what am I going to do now? And that's when
right.
this opportunity opened up. I worked in my local county government. Again, I'm right outside Philadelphia and joined county government in January 2020.
Okay.
So just in time
COVID.
for a pandemic
Yeah.
where we were trying to figure things out, the craziest election in the US history
Mhm.
taking place, lots of things going on in Pennsylvania. So it was an amazing time to be working in local government.
Yeah.
Like I was hiring and marshaling lots of volunteers to get people so they could vote from home, figuring things like how do we intake ballots? What does that look like? How are we socially distancing and not
Mhm.
having people in the building? And then we went from election into vaccine rollout. So it's
Mhm.
like, oh, you guys that helped with the election, come. And now we're in parking lots, directing traffic and
Yeah.
getting a vaccine rolled out. And it was really fun, but I was working 24/7 and it was exhausting. My husband is a pastor, he runs a food pantry. So the food pantry was
Mhm.
business was booming as well,
Yeah.
right? And so we just had a lot going on and I kind of got to the end of that and again didn't get a promotion that I'd wanted and
Mhm.
was just like I am so tired. I need to like sleep for a month.
Mhm.
Um a friend of mine invited me to do some consulting for her company,
Wonderful.
and I could work from home. So I left government. I still have friends. I still go and work every election day,
Right.
and I'm super involved
Right.
with all my friends in my government, in my county government. Um, but excuse me, but working from home from my basement
Yeah.
with my kids going back to school,
Mhm.
with teenagers that I could check in with when they got home from school was just amazing.
Right.
Amazing.
A whole new reality presented itself and
Yeah.
started to feel aligned to who you were, what you'd been looking
Yeah.
for, whether you knew it or not the whole time.
Yeah.
And
And I think I think we do put on kind of work personas,
yeah.
but my corporate work persona was really not who I was, right? Like I really
Yeah.
locked down who I was
Right.
to go and work in corporate environments and you know government I could
Yeah.
let a little more out,
Yeah.
but I was still pretty buttoned up, and I think being able to work from home kind of be in my comfortable environment, I just like I felt like the shackles started coming off
Mm,
and could let my sense of humor out a little bit.
yeah.
See, you know, what worked, what didn't. I was on a short-term contract, so there was
Mhm.
like, meh, they don't like me, you know,
Yeah.
oh well. And then I was trying to figure out like what am I doing
Right.
next? Um, and again, hit a lot of frustrations. Like I was going for job interviews, being told I was underqualified, overqualified, just not the thing.
Right.
And my husband actually was like, "What, you know, what are you doing? Like,
Mhm.
you hate this. Why are you going back to this?
Right.
There's got to be something different." And I met a coach and was like, "Okay, how do I make this happen for myself? How do I take back some ownership, but really design a career that's gonna serve me
Mhm.
and let me be me, but also give me some flexibility to be around for my teenagers, to run over to the food pantry when they're shorthanded, work election days if I want, I work till midnight on election night. Super fun. I just block out the next morning, right? I'm in control of my schedule. So it's a blast. But it took a lot of kind of knocks on the head before it was like, oh, maybe there is a different way I could do
Well, like
this.
if we map that timeline, 2020 was 5, 6 years ago. So you're sitting on
Mhm.
24 years of knowing one structure of reality, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
That's like,
yeah,
that's,
yeah.
we'll say, like 2/3 or more of your life.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I started working when I was like 12, so it's really, I'm not that old, right? Um,
Right? So
well,
this is this what I'm hearing, and I really want the listeners is the conditioning that we become accustomed to
yeah,
and the
yeah.
realities that we accept because we haven't had I don't know what the right word would be. I don't necessarily want to say time or opportunity, but we've just kind of been in one part of what the world has to offer,
Yeah.
and that during that time we're getting what God wants us to get: stability, security, skills, whatever.
Mhm.
It we have to trust His timing in the journey. But what I would encourage those who are feeling a shift is that that's the awakening, and that's when um, Stacy and I would encourage you to lean deeper into it sooner, right?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm. Mhm.
otherwise, the supernatural will keep hunting you down and shake you. And I've talked to so many
Right.
women who have um, like mild to severe events that shook them
Mhm.
to break free.
Mhm.
And what's really cool about your story is that it naturally acclimate like you got to acclimatize to this new reality and shift and see who Stacy was going to be as no longer in, the identity of work that she had known for so long.
Mhm.
And then started to see how aligned that was to you, which then fed your spirit and activated that deeper,
Mhm.
truer us, because the body is just the outside machine. And from there, you got to go, oh, what more, what more? Right? And that's where we go down the
Right.
rabbit holes of ourselves and get to
Mhm.
really see who we are. And it sounds like it just had such great benefits in the home life and in what you were looking for. And
Mhm.
like, when you speak to that, having to be that buttoned up version at work, I 1000% understand because in my industry, by law, it's largely men and either
Mhm.
young men or middle aged men with egos and a lot to
Mhm.
prove and a desire for authority. And like being a bylaw officer is not a highly glamorous or like you're not a prison guard doing a shakedown. Like you're just keeping yards clean and cars unparked and like managing neighborhoods.
Right.
Like
Right.
there's
Right.
there's different levels. The industry's changed locally, but that had to survive in an environment like that. We do have to be a certain version of
Yeah.
ourselves, and it's easy to start to believe that that's the only version of ourselves.
Exactly. Exactly. 100%. And I talk to lots of people who well, and you could probably identify, like I was like this too, where you say, well, what is success? And it's
Mhm,
like, oh, I want to be the vice president
mhm,
of human. Do you really? Like, I
mhm,
would hate that, right?
mhm.
I like working with
Yeah,
individuals. I like managing like I don't want to be the vice president,
yeah,
but like that's the track I was on,
yeah.
right? And that's what success is. I'm like, I don't that is not appealing. Um, but often we're told like, oh, you're on a track. Here's the end point, and you're like, thank you, awesome. Okay, what do I need to do? I'll keep
Mhm,
doing that. And I find like with my clients too, when we take a moment to really be honest about what is success
Yeah.
for us, like you get these great answers, people who are like, women especially, I want to make a lot of money, but I'm scared to say that.
Mhm.
Or I'm sick of making a lot of money. I want to have time. I don't want to travel anymore. Yeah. Or I want this, or I want a legacy, or I love managing a team and they took away my team. And how do I get that back? Or what's my impact? And I do think like that taking a moment to do a little self-reflection, be honest,
Mhm.
and sometimes you need a partner to do
Mhm.
that, a
Yeah.
buddy in there with you,
Yeah.
about what is success? What is a happy life at this moment? Because that changes too for us as our
Mhm.
seasons change, as we evolve. That might look really different in your 50s than it did in your 20s when you started your career. So I think taking those moments to, am I on the road to my success? Am I
Mhm.
doing this for me? What are my goals? Am I aimed towards them? That's it sounds very easy, but that's hard and scary and can, be really intimidating, I think, to do.
You know,
But so life-giving and liberating when, when you say it, right? When you let
well,
it out.
like I'm looking at you as you're sharing this, and I'm seeing the entrepreneur's source and like the well curated background and shirt, and I love that because in hearing what your journey's been, it seems like it was always leading to this destination, and that you're home now, like you're home, and you
It
can
does
be
feel like that a bit.
right,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
all of
Right.
Stacy,
Yeah.
you are your client, right? Like you were
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
person seeking
Yeah.
the the what like the recipe to make the work life balance
Hmm.
work for you, because
Hmm.
often
Hmm.
work will provide elements of what we need but not
Hmm.
all of what we need, unless
Yeah. Yeah.
like there's sort of the few unicorn jobs. I've had a few for sure, um, but the the event that happens that shifts us, now you can really hold space for the person that comes to you and provide safety and provide evidence of the other side, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And take all the things that you loved about your job and use
Yeah.
them freely to breathe life into somebody else. And you guys, I was reading some of the testimonies on her website of um, the awareness that grows when somebody says yes to the unknown, which is what you were just describing. It's the
Hmm.
unknown. It's
Hmm.
the 20, 30 years of conditioning of one reality that,
Hmm. Hmm.
we've become so accustomed to, we can't see that there's anything else until we
Hmm.
kind of wake up and go deeper. And so, what have you learned about yourself shifting and becoming really established now with this business of yours?
Yeah, well, and I think a lot of times you feel like, oh, if I'm going to pivot my career, then all this education, all this work I've done, all this expertise I've
Mhm,
gathered, I've got to push that all out. That all goes in a trunk in
mhm,
the corner, and now I learn something new. And that just is so not the case, right? Like all those experiences, we've got to bring those with us. And often, I think when I think about my life and I look back, even in school, I was the mentor, the cheerleader, the like, you can do it kind of
yeah,
person
yeah,
in every single thing that I did, right? And now I do this for a living. But finding those threads of yourself, like, oh, I always manage the projects. I'm
mhm,
always the leader. I'm
mhm,
always the organizer. You see that through no matter what your job title is, those threads, and just how do you lean into that?
mhm,
And I think it's been fun for me to find ways to, like I'm kind of a one-on-one type person, but I've been doing podcasts and speaking engagements and really stepping out and it's enjoyable. It's
Yeah.
been really fun, and
Yeah.
I've met awesome people doing it.
Yeah.
And so there are things like that that I'm like, I never saw myself doing this.
Right.
Or, or like I work with a veterans group. I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't have military, like
Mm-hmm.
I love working with veterans. Like never knew that, and
Mm-hmm.
now have an opportunity. So things like that like, oh gosh, there's pockets of people and opportunities for me to learn things that I didn't even know kind of really existed or were accessible to me, to someone like me. And getting I think you kind of have that, like once you have a little taste of like, oh, I didn't know what this was about, and then it's sort of fun or you're sort of good at it, and then it's like, let me try it again,
Yeah.
right? Like it
Yeah.
does get addictive. Like what else?
Yeah.
Where else can I push out? What other rock do I need to lift up and look under? Because there's some really cool things that we're finding. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the unknown seems daunting, but once you kind of realize that you're not going to die, it becomes a playground. And so, longtime listeners have heard me say this 1,000 times, but like your business is the playground for your soul, right? To go out and experiment. And it does rewire the way that you view current reality into curiosity and further
Mhm.
exploration rather than the way that the stereotype has us get in corporate. And at the Entrepreneur Source, you guys have a patented word for this around career burnout. Can you share it with us?
Yeah, we have all kinds of like battered
That's
career,
the word.
corporate
Yeah, that's right.
refugees. Yes, we use all kinds of fun terms.
Yeah.
But I think that there's something in that when we're in toxic environments and we might jump from environment to environment, like we're doing the same thing in a different place, that it's, oh, I'm still not happy. It's still
Mhm. Yeah.
toxic. It's
Yeah.
still right when we need to stop and go, okay, hang on.
Yeah.
Like, but let's reassess. But we get kind of in that loop where it's like, well, this is just how work is,
That's right.
right? Where people are gonna yell at me, or I'm
Mhm.
not gonna feel like I have a mission or feel fulfilled, or I'm not gonna be happy with my paycheck or my benefit, whatever those things
Yeah.
are, or I don't have control over the culture. And that's just how it is.
Mhm.
And that's just what you got to do. And, my mom always used to say, oh, it's the curse of the working class, right? You got to
Right.
work. Working is the curse of the working class. And I just think like when
Yeah.
we say, nah, that can't be it, right? And and sometimes I get clients who say things like, my husband seems to like his job. Why don't I like my job? Or I have achieved success, like
Mhm.
success in quotes, right? But why aren't I happy? Like, it's
Mhm.
still not fulfilling, it's still not itching my scratch, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's still not the thing. And feel upset with themselves or resigned to it, or you just get caught in these loops. And I think the antidote really is stopping, reflection,
Yeah.
education on what else is out there. You've been looking through one window.
Yeah.
What if we pulled the blinds back
Yeah. Or
a
like break
little
down the
more? What else
walls.
is there?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah, I actually go outside,
Yeah.
right? And see what are other pastures people are playing in? How did they make it work?
Mhm.
What are some of those stories? And be free to be inspired by them or to steal things from them, to like, how do I get this for me?
Mhm.
So I think, yeah, having that curiosity can be really scary. I have a friend who's a coach, and he says, okay, when you were a little kid and you were laying in bed and you knew there was a monster under your bed and it
Mhm.
was terrifying and you just knew there was a monster under your bed. till you were brave enough to shine the flashlight under there and realize, ah, it's just dust. This
Yeah.
is broken toys under your bed.
Mhm.
No monster. And it changed your whole life, right? Like now I can get a drink, I can go to the bathroom, I don't have to be afraid
Yeah.
anymore. And I think some of the exploration that I do with clients is like that. Like, how do we get the flashlight and just shine it in some of those corners? Sometimes it is scary. Business ownership is scary.
Yeah.
Making a big change is scary,
Yeah.
but usually combating that with education, with some data, with some facts, with community. What are other
Mhm.
people doing? Who else has done this?
Mhm.
It makes it a lot more normal. It doesn't have to be that we're strapping in to go to the moon, right? We're just walking outside.
Well, and in that, the freedom and permission to explore and then, but not necessarily decide yet, right? It's not putting
Yes,
pressure. Like
yes, yeah.
in my job, I completely lived the reality we're talking about of bad workplaces, but I don't settle at work anywhere.
Hmm.
And so I sought out other opportunities and I
Yeah,
changed local governments. And I haven't quit my job, but I have been able to continuously feed my soul more in the
yeah,
workplace.
yeah,
And, that's part and parcel. Sometimes it's circumstances do work with or against you, but you can still practice yourself in those circumstances and
yeah,
that refinement and
yeah,
look for different ways to say yes and make some changes. Maybe it's less engaging with people at the workplace, being civil and polite enough, but not getting too lost in the nonsense or the politics or whatever,
yeah.
and guiding yourself along. And even just those small shifts start to
Mhm.
allow for that curiosity and that self exploration to expand. And you guys,
Yeah.
when you partner with a coach, and I love this career ownership coach, label or category, I want to know more about that. That's like real sovereignty and self responsibility for
Hmm.
what you're
Hmm.
doing. Because as much as you, for example, were accepting the circumstances you were in, like that was you doing that. And as much as
Yeah,
it was when you started to
yeah,
say yes to other things.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think too, I think you're hitting on something too. Sometimes we're looking for work to check all of our boxes, and it just can't. It's like, oh, I'm gonna get married and not have any other friends, right?
Yeah.
Like that's bonkers,
Yeah.
right? Like I still need my fun girlfriends and my serious
Yeah.
thinker friends and my husband, all these things. And so I think sometimes even reflecting on, well, what exactly am I missing? Can I find that in a different workplace or is it an ad? Do I need to start a podcast, start a side
Yeah.
business,
Yeah.
right? Have a creative outlet, find a community, volunteer somewhere that that gets at some of those other boxes that make us happier at
Mhm.
work,
Mhm.
at the day job, but we can feel like we're being creative or being a leader or experiencing different types of clients or communities that we don't get at work. Sometimes we just we're not very creative
Yeah.
about adding
Yeah.
and exploring. And it's like, well, no, it's possible to also do two things at once. Like,
And then it
sometimes you
shifts.
just need to add.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's reciprocity in that,
Hmm.
right? Like it shifts who you are and could crack something at the workplace
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
because you did something externally, but it made a change
Hmm.
internally
Hmm.
and then where does it take you from there?
Hmm.
So, I mean, that
Yeah.
is words of encouragement to people who feel stuck, to people who
Hmm.
feel burnt out. to people who feel like those two women are fat poop crazy, thinking I can add something to my already overfull plate. But we're talking about soul food. We're talking
Yeah,
about soul food.
yeah.
And adding could also mean, I'm going to get lost in my analogies, but taking something off, right? So, like, so-called adding
That
is
you're doing, like kind of
let go.
reassessing the
Yeah.
things that you're doing. Could you drop a
Yeah.
couple and add some different?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But it does really start with, what am I missing? Like
mhm.
what are those things that you're missing? So you know how to go after them, right? Where to look for those.
So what are some of the favorite aha moments you've had with clients that could make so tangible that one of the listeners could go, "That's me. Wow, okay, that happened for them. I can start to see the unknown more clearly as it relates to me."
Yeah. Yeah. So many, right? I think I have a client, we were good, we worked together
Mm,
in insurance, and she became a client and has her own business now. But her aha was like, well, how will I feel? Because it was a lot of, why should I do this? What are my
mm,
pros and cons list? How can I add to the pros? And she stopped and shifted her thinking, and she said, how will I feel in 10 years if I don't do this? If I don't make a change, if I don't take a risk right now? Like, will I be disappointed in myself? Will I be glad? What? She goes, I think I'd be really disappointed. And that did it for her. And I'm like, okay,
yeah.
it just turned on a light in a new room. Um, and then I've had clients, when we're thinking about business ownership or ch a change of career, that like, well, what's my percentage of failure? I'm like, well, that percentage of failure also gives you your percentage of success,
Mhm.
right? So if you're a 30% chance that this could fail, guess what is 70% chance that you won't fail?
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, we think back on our careers and it's like, I don't fail much. Like, I'm not making horrible decisions. Like, I tend to
Right.
figure things out and learn a new job. And it's like, well, you'll keep doing that even in a new environment. And so I think sometimes watching that struggle of and reframe of like, well, wait a minute. Why is this possible for these folks over here, but
Mhm.
not, and I wouldn't think it was possible for me. It's like, yeah, why do you think
Yeah.
that? And then you see, click, the light bulb comes on. It's
Yeah.
like, ah, I could be with them.
Yeah.
Like, sure, why
Yeah.
not? I can figure it out.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that what I emphasize with my clients is really the ownership
Mhm.
piece,
Mhm.
right? Like, how do you take back control? And even if that's continuing in your job,
Yes.
but knowing you have some options, knowing they're not the only game in town, that you can do things besides this job is often so empowering. And it's, shifting out of the passenger seat into the
Yes.
driver's seat.
Yeah.
And and that's when magic starts happening, right? You start making impacts and people notice that you're different and
Yeah.
your family sees it, and it becomes contagious and you want to continue to try new things or learn new things. Um,
Yeah, like it's
so
permission to be more yourself and to find out
yeah,
more
yeah,
yourself, which we were talking about
yeah.
earlier. And
Hmm.
in your coaching practice, you work with corporate clients either looking for a career change or looking to start a business, right? So
Hmm.
there's
Hmm.
something there seeking, but the hesitancy that we all tend to have at the
Yeah.
beginning of something new, and then the reflecting back to them as to where they want to lead themselves with it.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
that's the um, trying to help the listeners embody that of, you know, pausing to think without limits, of what do you really want. And something you said way earlier was people saying, I want to make less money and have more freedom, which is like the total opposite of North America. What?
Right, right,
Because who says
right, like
that?
you're gonna get kicked out of
Right? And I mean,
yeah, your community
exactly.
if you
Like,
say that. Yeah.
what audacious thing is somebody holding back on because they think it doesn't fit?
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you can start to let go of that, you get freedom, and shifts, like you said, are bound to happen. Like I'm thinking of so many examples in my lived story and even in Stacy's, you guys, like look at what she described her world to be to what it is now. And again, like you've arrived at home. So you're 3 years in, you're like really in the flow, you're loving the harmony of work life, of work freedom, and what
Mhm.
else is, what's next or what's more coming into this? Like, um, where are you continuing to expand after this beautiful uh, awakening?
Yeah, well, I think some of that's the beauty, right? Like we're never done. Like
Yeah.
there's always a hill to climb. And so for me, I've tried to I keep trying to retreat and then push myself back out, but I said this was going to be my year of really exploring different communities. Who are people that I haven't connected with, different and that I might not even be aware
Yeah.
of their communities. How do I get into them and experiment a little bit? Does my message resonate? What can I learn? How does that improve my coaching? And it's been really fun so far. So, like I mentioned, I've been doing more with exiting military
Hmm.
folks and veterans. I've been on podcasts, which is fun. I've been doing some speaking engagements with
Right.
a coaching partner,
Yeah.
and it's been scary, but super fun. And life-giving and is building my business, right? Because I'm interacting with different folks. And I think kind of universally we have like there are those of us who are like, I have that itch,
Yeah.
right? Of like, I need to do something, but I don't know what it is. Like, how do I even start? And I'm exhausted
Hmm.
and I have 5 loads of laundry to do. How am I supposed to
Yes.
think about this, right? And I think about it while I'm in the grocery store. And so yes, but you also might need to carve out, 30 minutes, an hour for yourself. It doesn't take a lot of time and it can be really empowering to have those moments of like, ah, I have an option or
Yeah.
I have things to think through so
Yeah.
I can get an option. Like that's a very exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah. It's I love that you brought up laundry. I talk about laundry all the time. I'm the laundry queen.
I always have laundry. Like,
You've got
it's
4 kids
never
and a
done.
husband, right? 6 people. That's a lot of laundry. Well,
It's a
folding
lot of
laundry, you
laundry,
could be thinking about something else, right? Like
right?
you could be finding or combining in the mundane the other possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah. And often I think like, people talk about like they have these epiphanies when they're commuting or in the
Yep.
shower when your brain is doing something else. And but sometimes you've got to give your brain a challenge, right? Like stretch it into a new area and then you have an aha back in your comfort zone, right? That I don't think we give enough credit to those those moments of yeah where we're trying something new or we're doing something rote and then waiting for lightning to strike, waiting for one of those epiphanies. And then what do you do with it once it
Hmm.
hits?
Hmm.
Can you turn it into action?
And the cost of not, I love the way that your friend put that question. Think
Yeah.
forward and reverse engineer 10 years from now, 5 years from now.
Yeah.
And what's the cost
Yeah.
going to be? Because you guys, like Stacy said, 30% chance of failure, 70% chance of success. If there's a
Right. We
30%
never
chance
think of
of
it that way.
rain, are you bringing your umbrella with you? You'd be like, nah, 30%. No, I don't need the umbrella, right? But our brains want to see risk, failure, danger, alert,
Hmm. Hmm.
when it's really far less than the other opportunities, the other possibilities that are there. So, very rich conversation. I really love, and I love just how, I don't know, like your aura just seems like you've really arrived, right?
Thank
And from here,
you.
there is no limit. It's just like you said earlier, an ongoing, um, healthy, addictive way to continue to experience
Hmm.
yourself and interact.
Hmm.
And I mean, we're pretty much at the time, but there was one last piece. There's no quota on how long or short the podcast has to be, guys. But um, like the change in the family life, like you guys picture
Hmm.
Stacy making these shifts, four teenage daughters, as a woman leading her women, and like how has that, have you noticed a difference at home in how your relationships with your family are now too?
Yes, yes. So I've got my oldest two are twins and they're in their
Okay.
first year of college. And students get so much poured into them. What are you gonna do? What's your major? What's your
Yeah.
career? Like, get on a track, right? And I think us as parents, there's some comfort in that. But then we also like, well, what if you don't like, you don't know at 18 what your track is? Like, it's okay,
Mhm.
like try some stuff. And I think now when I say that, like, stay open, you interested, try it. What's the worst that could happen?
Mhm.
Um, that they see like, okay, yeah, there are more options than maybe I'm being told about. Like,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
the field is a little wider than where they've put the the stanchions,
Yeah.
right? And are kind of, there's a little more oomph when I say, nah, try it, don't believe them. Go try this too. It's outside your major. Yeah, go talk to that kid.
Mhm.
Um, and that's really fun, I think, for your kids to see, there's not just one way to success. There can be multiple ways. Our careers really are not a straight line. There are lots of squiggles.
Mhm.
And then also for them, like they have a good time when I tell them about, client breakthroughs or
Yeah.
like fun things that people, or I meet these really interesting people. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys,
Yeah.
like, my client's going to Antarctica. Like she sent me a picture of penguins. Like it's
Yeah.
so cool, right?
Yeah. It
Like,
makes their world bigger.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that because here's where I get very grandiose, but that's shifting legacy for the future generations.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that will trickle down from your kids to grandkids to, the ongoing lineage. And
So,
we hear this as the ripple effect of shifting. And where I get really
mhm.
excited about it is thinking about the future being better than the past, like
Mhm.
we've come through
Mhm.
hard times and now we have never had as much opportunity and abundance as we do.
Yeah.
And there are stewards taking great responsibility with that to do good with it. And that's what I'm
Mhm.
hearing when we
Mhm.
say yes to ourselves and yes to God's whispers that become shouts that become smacks to the head.
What am I gonna do? Lay you off again? It's like,
Right? We don't need to get the smack in
ah,
the head in order to
okay.
have life-changing epiphany. Um, but then it's beautiful because for me, it gives me freedom to not have to perform or pressure, but to be part of something greater.
Yeah.
right? And then
Right.
that way you're not like, okay, I have to do this or else humanity is doomed. No.
Know
You,
what the world really needs is you,
yeah,
right? Like authentic you doing your maximum,
yeah,
right? What unlocking whatever that is. And that can be scary, but so life-giving, right? So fun
yeah,
when you're in that flow.
yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right on. Well, we'll share where to follow you. We can find you. You've got a website, books, resources. People can book a call with you, all the things, and start to um, see. Right. If you don't know
Yeah.
what to do, just start with something. It doesn't have to be the thing, but you can
Mhm.
start.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the great conversation, Mia.
Thank you too. Oh, you guys, that was so juicy. I just love getting to know the guests before they come on, and then getting to know as much as I can about them in about an hour's time. So that was such a delight. I'll share Stacy's links. She's got a website that takes you to her uh, profile and the services that she offers. And then also, my invitation to you, as always, at the end of these is, to come and connect with me because we look for a coach that we can relate to. And so, if you are working and a mom and a volunteer and whatever, a busy, ambitious, beautiful, everyday woman, and you just want to awaken to yourself a bit more, that's the work that we do. It's not necessarily, I love this, life changing, but it's life giving. So thank you, Stacy, for that. It's life giving when we say yes to ourselves and stop denying parts of who we are because of excuses, basically, because of circumstance, because this is the job, because this is the kid. Like, if that were true for me, I would not be showing up and doing what I'm doing. I could excuse my way out of all of it. Well, I'm a bylaw officer and we're not life coaches. Well, my daughter doesn't go to bed until 10 o'clock. I don't have time for myself. Well, I haven't built a six-figure coaching business, so who am I to continue doing? I love my heart and the way that I hold people into themselves. And that is what's true, and that is what matters. And that must be given an honored space to exist. And so that's what the Everyday Woman Awakening is. That's what we're doing in the Phenomenal Collective. That's where the Empower Me Hub is supporting corporate industry with more life giving energy in the day to day. I really like that. So thanks again, Stacy, for bringing that into the mix of the work that we do in the world. So, where to find me? You found the podcast. I'm on Facebook, primarily Powerful Inc. POWHERFULLINC is the tag on everything. And I'm not fancy. I'm not gate kept. I don't have a bouncer at my DMs. I don't use ManyChat. It is always and all me for real in between the laundry and the late nights, feeding my soul and wanting to breathe more life giving energy into yours too. Have such a powerful day, and I'll see you in the next episode.